Now, Donald Trump is maintaining his lead in New Hampshire with 4 days until the Republican Party primary.
And that's according to the latest polling from the Boston Globe and Suffolk University.
Yeah, it shows the former president at 52% of likely votes, while former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley has 35%.
And then in a distant third, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis is pegged with just 6%.
But last night, Trump had this to say.
We have to win. We have to win in November, but we have to win coming up. Think of it, next Tuesday, we have to win. And we have to win in a resounding fashion. I said they got so sick and tired of me. I started off by saying, listen, we're going to win, but you got to win by big numbers. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote to fire crooked Joe Biden, kick the Biden crime family out of the White House.
Well, there you go. I mean, it just looks more and more likely, doesn't it?
It does. It's just the rhetoric. He's not This is what annoys me. I know a lot of you are Trump supporters, but he's not said anything there. I mean, it's a clip.
Well, it's interesting he's saying we've got to win, but we've got to win by big numbers. He doesn't want this, you know, what happened last time.
But also the whole...
It needs to be a stonking win.
The last time it was all lock her up for Hillary Clinton. Now he's calling, you know, the crooked Biden family.
Yeah.
The criminal family in the White House. But of course, it's not as if he's not short of legal problems, is it?
But a lot of people don't see that, do they?
No.
They just see a charismatic figure that they believe might make a difference. Shall we hear? I mean, we get one perspective, don't we, from this side of the Atlantic?
Yes.
But I wonder what it feels like at home. Joining us now is US political analyst Eric Ham. Morning, Eric. It's interesting, yes. We only see what basically the American channels broadcast here on their foreign services. What does it feel like at home? Does it feel like that Trump is just going to storm it again?
Well, yeah. In fact, it looks as though that Donald Trump has the Republican Party coalescing around him. It looks like he is on a glide path to the Republican nomination, and no one can actually stop him. But of course, there are grave concerns because Donald Trump has said some things in terms of his rhetoric that suggests that American democracy is actually right now in a chokehold if, in fact, Donald Trump becomes president of the United States.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Donald Trump has said things that he will be a dictator, but he will be a dictator on day one. He talks about how he is Americans' retribution. He talks about how he would actually make the Justice Department go after his enemies. Those are things that, and the things that he is saying, the poisoning of the blood, he is echoing Hitler, and that's a fact, and that's deeply concerning for a lot of people that are not supportive of Donald Trump and his march to the White House, or at least to the GOP nomination.
What has happened to critical political thinking in the United States amongst the general public? Because, I mean, is there any happening at all? Because you know, if you support Trump or not, and I'm not trying to say what anyone should do, but if he's coming out with rhetoric saying he's going to use the Justice Department to, you know, go for his enemies, well, that's exactly what he's accused Biden of doing and been very critical of Biden for doing that.
Oh, no, you're right. He certainly has been. But also we have to remember this is also a former president who was impeached twice, and he is now staring down 91 criminal counts. But yet he is still looking as though he is getting stronger and stronger with every GOP nominating contest. And it speaks to where the United States is. But also, too, I think we need to recognize that, you know, there has been moments in American history where it seems as though the United States actually teetered on the brink of moving into fascism. And this is just another one of those times.
Yes, and we, of course, on this side of the Atlantic are wondering how he would treat his relationship with Britain and with Europe and with NATO.
Well, Donald Trump has made clear that he is not a fan of NATO and certainly of Europe. And that's why when he talks about make America great, of course, what comes after that is America first. So I think if we are looking at a potential Donald Trump presidency, it's going to be a presidency where Donald Trump and the United States will retreat from the rest of the world, and it will be about America first. And so where we look at President Biden, where he exactly worked with NATO and other European nations, particularly in the aftermath of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I don't think we will see that type of international global engagement from a Trump presidency.
Why is it that in the face of this, and he is posing a very real threat to the Democrats, why is it in the face of that they still seem to be on course for saying Biden's going to be our candidate? Because even with the best will in the world, even if you were his biggest supporter, you've got to look at the president and say he's not really performing at the moment. He is frankly probably just getting a little bit too frail for this.
You know, Donald Trump took his greatest weakness and he turned it into his greatest strength. The fact that he is facing 4 criminal counts in 4 different jurisdictions. President Biden has not taken his greatest weakness, of course, his age, and actually turned it into his greatest strength. In fact, every time we see him, I think it just bolsters or reinforces this idea that he may be too long in the tooth for the job. And so at some point, he's got to be able to do what Donald Trump has done with his greatest weakness and turn it into an advantage. We haven't seen that yet.
Mm.
Not likely to. I understand that Ron DeSantis has more or less thrown in the towel, hasn't he, and said that he might think about 2028, but he's probably not going to have a chance in 24.
Well, this is always going to be, I think, a very heavy lift for Ron DeSantis because he has always billed himself as a Trump clone. And what we have seen with the Republican Party is that they are not going to go with a cheap imitation if they actually have the real thing. And also we find that Ron DeSantis just doesn't have the charisma and the stature of a Donald Trump. And I think that's why we have seen, at least on the campaign trail, he has gotten weaker and weaker as the contest has gone on.
OK, Eric, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
It just seems like Love Island sort of thing rather than an actual presidential election.
It should be serious. I mean, it's the most powerful country in the world, isn't it? Mm. Anyway, there you go. We'll see what happens. But it looks more and more like Trump again. It
does, yeah. And for those of you getting hot under the collar about questioning whether he should be, it's about that political analysis. If you want to vote for Trump, if you were entitled to vote, then fine. But still, why is nobody saying, but you're being hypocritical in what you're saying? You'd never get away. Any UK politician wouldn't get away with what he's doing without someone here going, but you've just been absolutely hypocritical. You're criticising the same party for doing what you're claiming you're going to do.
But does nobody in America point that out? I mean, where are the journalists in America? I think there are lots of print journalists in America who are very objective. But from the television I watch, and I watch a lot of American news channels where I can, I mean, Fox is just so blindly pro-Republican and very pro-Trump, and CNN so much the other way.
Yeah.
That I find it almost sickening to watch either, because they are so blatantly political, but only in one way. Yeah. And you think, where are these objective questions being asked? You just don't see it happening. I hope domestically on the channels in America they are being asked.
I hope so.